Rutstein with the Evan and Mark team right here at Compass. And we are being joined today with loan officer David Toaff. Hi, David.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. I met David, a couple of years ago, and he kept on sending me emails, and he was very persistent. You should try me as your lender. Okay, fine, I'll try. And how many deals have we done together? A lot.
I've lost count. Yeah, but it's going good.
You lost count. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some down payment assistant programs, mainly DC Opens Doors, because it's a great product, and you certainly know a lot about this program. But first, let's figure out who's David Toaff. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, Mark, I am Dave Toaff, licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia. I'm with First Home Mortgage, and I have a small but very hardworking team with my company. We are all 7 days a week, even my processor and underwriter, which makes us pretty unique. Usually those people don't work weekends. So we are really able to expedite things and keep pace with the DC market, which of course is really important. I live over in Logan Circle. Very used to meeting with people. You know, a lot of first-time home buyers, for example, really want the face-to-face interaction. So that's never a problem. And
you're at your home office right now?
I'm sorry?
You're at your home office right now?
Sure am. Yep. My home is my office. So keep it simple, save time. I'm all about efficiency. Economics background, so we love efficiency.
Nice. Okay, well, let's get into DCOD. Let's tell the people, what is DC Opens Doors?
Sure. So DC Open Doors is a program through DC Housing Finance Agency. You and your team and I actually did a seminar over there, I guess about a year ago now. But anyhow, it's a down payment assistance program. It also offers reduced mortgage insurance, which, very simple, is just a cost you pay when doing less than 20% down that is cut in half by using the program. They also have tax credits available that reduce your federal income tax liability by up to $2,000 a year. To give you a little idea with just some numbers, it lets you buy a home with no money down up to $467,000. You can also do as little as 3% down up to a $700,000 sales price. So prior to this program, the only way you could possibly go that high with a low down payment would have been 3.5% down with FHA, and then you'd have really high mortgage insurance premiums. So this program is very helpful for keeping things more affordable, but allowing people to buy homes in the district with little to no down payment.
Okay, so is the down payment just free money that DC is giving a first-time home buyer?
I definitely do not like to call it free money. Just to give you a quick example, if someone's buying a $400,000 condo and they need to do zero down, or they want to do zero down, maybe their stocks are doing extremely well and they do not want to touch them, as a lot of people's are right now. You can get a single mortgage for $388,000. It's your normal 30-year fixed loan. You do have a higher rate on the first mortgage. It's about 1% higher than where market is if you get the assistance. But you can get $12,000 as a second loan, but it's really what's called a forgivable grant. In other words, every year that goes by, 20% of your $12,000 will become just equity in your home. So after 3 years, let's just pretend you decide you need to sell, then you would have to pay off the remaining 40%. If you go on for 5 years, of course, the money's completely forgiven. But one of the most common misconceptions about this program is that people think they have to stay in the home or stay in the loan for 5 years. That is not the case. For example, if you buy in an up and coming area and you see a lot of appreciation, you could refinance pretty quickly and get into a lower rate.
Yeah, definitely. In the DCOD program, you can't turn around and rent out your property because it's not for investors. But if you decided that you wanted to move on in a couple of years, you could certainly refinance that and rent it out that way. Isn't that right?
Exactly. Yep, you could do that. And what a lot of our clients are doing these days is getting into these up and coming areas again, more sooner rather than later. Most people cannot save as fast as the DC market appreciates. So the idea is buy sooner rather than later, just like you want to buy a stock that's going up quickly as soon as you can. Same idea. And this program is allowing more people to do that. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a great program for sure. What about, let's say, Maryland? Any property programs? I think you have Maryland Mortgage Assistance. Is that what it's called?
Maryland Mortgage Program Grant Assist is one of the products we're going to touch on. I don't want to bore everyone to death. That's why they can, of course, contact you or I after the fact. And there are so many programs and then sub-programs within the programs. But this is one that's very interesting, and it's one of the newer ones. Very similar to the Open Doors program, but instead of getting 3% to cover your down payment, you're actually getting 4%. So you're covering the entire down payment and 1% of your closing costs. Closing costs in Maryland are going to be roughly 3.5%. So you've covered, 1 out of 3.5% of that, more or less. The interesting thing about this one and why it's really dynamic is that money that you get is forgiven immediately. So there's no 5-year wait period. There's no any wait period. You literally can buy the house, and then whenever you want to refinance into a different product, say for a lower rate or what have you, you can do it as soon as you have the equity or capability to do so. So it's very, very interesting product.
All right, great. Well, that's good to know about Maryland. Full disclosure, I am not licensed in Maryland. So we do have people on my team that are. If you need any help in Maryland, then certainly David can help you with the financing side. And then we have Evan Johnson and Charles Cornell on my team that both do a lot of business in Maryland. Let's talk a little bit about the DC market and how competitive it is. Is there anything that a new buyer can do to be more competitive at the gate going into maybe a multiple offer situation on the lending side?
100%. And it's funny, Mark, I wish people could see everything we see with all the transactions that we do and what it really takes to be competitive. You can get your loan far more than just pre-approved. I mean, I know a lot of people are reluctant to get pre-approved in the first place. I think once they realize how fast and easy and free it is, they're a little bit less reluctant. But what we can do is get your loan completely underwritten in advance. My loan processor, Alyssa Brereton, got to give her a shout out because I've never seen a processor who works this hard. She does not stop. I will check my phone on a Saturday night and she's submitting a loan to underwriting at like midnight. She's unbelievable. So
good stuff.
give her some credit. That's not normal. They're usually more, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But anyway, she will gladly look over the file and get everything out of the way that the underwriter needs, aside from, of course, your appraisal, your homeowner's insurance policy, and ordering, title, making sure that you, have clean ownership to the property. I mean, those items can't be done in advance, but if you get all the other things out of the way, not only could you have an extremely fast financing contingency, which of course will look very attractive to the seller saying, hey, I'm going to have my loan commitment, in a couple days, then you can close in 2 weeks when, the average people are closing in 30 days or maybe even, highly competitive lenders are closing in 3 weeks. All of a sudden you're telling the seller, hey, I'm going to get you your money in 2 weeks. So I think that's extremely impressive. And I love when people, take that leap of faith and go with it because we get great results.
I think that's definitely really attractive to listing agents when they see a quick close, especially if the property is already vacant, just sitting with staging in it that costs money. And also seeing local lenders is usually a pretty good attraction as well. What would you say some of the pitfalls are and why loans fall apart?
Sure. What are some of the issues that happen? Typically once we're already ratified, we don't really have too many issues, but a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot ahead of time. I see people financing really expensive cars. I'm not here to say I don't like nice cars, but the fact of the matter is they're not a forced savings plan. You're not going to see appreciation. You're obviously going to see rapid depreciation with a car. I try to advise my clients to try to get into a home before buying, an $80,000 Mercedes or Beamer. It's a little bit of a better investment. So that's one item. I think a lot of people close accounts. So a lot of people are very eager to pay credit cards down because that's one of the best things you can do to get your credit score up. And then people occasionally will close cards. So that could really kill your credit history and cause some major damage to your credit score. And then, really just people not saving. We live in a society, I'm guilty as well. We all love to shop. We all love nice things. But unfortunately, people will really run into their funds for closing. So I think that's important. And, speaking of which, just a general tip that I would give people is to make sure that they're contributing to their 401k. 401k is an awesome product, and it allows people to save. They can take up to $10,000 from their 401k as a first-time home buyer with no tax penalty. So make sure you're contributing to your retirement accounts. Whether you're going to take money from there or not, it's just a very good habit.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that. You talked a little bit about credit score. So let's get into that a little bit. For a few of my clients, I know that they had some questions about whether they should close credit cards or pay things off. And you ran them through some kind of model to figure out if it would affect their credit score. And how does that work? Can they come to you with those kind of questions? Like, what if I thought that my credit score was just shy of where it needs to be for a really good rate? Can they ask you those questions ahead of time for a little bit of advice?
Definitely. And really there's no too soon is what I like to tell people, in terms of getting your credit situated, which sometimes means, getting it from good to excellent. It can really make a difference, particularly low down payment, going from the 740 to 759 range and getting into that 760 as an example can have a tremendous effect on the terms that someone can get. So yeah, there is a credit simulator like you talked about where we can actually figure out how much paying down your Amex to, $800 is going to do for your credit score. The other thing that we could potentially do is what's called a rescore. I don't want to get too technical here. I know we can take questions later, but simply, Mark, if you had a couple cards that had high balances on them at no cost to the client, they can provide us the statements for those cards and then letters from the creditors stating where the balance now is. Take that information and in 2 to 3 business days, we can rescore their credit at a higher amount. So normally, without these rescoring effects, you would have to wait until the credit card statement came out, the new one came out. And of course, that can be as long as a month. So if they want to get situated and ready to buy ASAP, we can do that. And again, we cover the cost.
Yeah, it's important to start putting your team together up front. Can't see if I'm frozen or if you're frozen, but we'll just keep going and see if it's going through. Get your team up front, pick your loan officer, pick your realtor, go into it with being already set up so that when you find a property and you really love it and there's a deadline on offers, you're not trying to put everything together at the last minute. And we can guide you through everything else as far as don't buy furniture along the way when you're under contract, and don't lease a car, and don't make any big purchases, because there's nothing worse than getting to the end and all of a sudden your loan starts falling apart because nobody told you the things that you should and should not do along the way. Isn't that right?
Exactly. When we send our pre-approval letters, we have a PDF that breaks down a lot of the important do's and don'ts when getting ready to buy a home. But as you said, it's very good to verbalize all of that. And, it's funny how you mentioned choosing your team. I mean, by all means, everybody needs a loan officer and a realtor when trying to compete in this market. But I definitely love when people choose a team like yours where you all have several people on staff. You guys have a transaction coordinator. I mean, people, of course, don't see what goes on behind the scenes, but I can really see how much smoother the process goes when people take advantage of that. So I really love that a lot.
Do you have any products that you really love? You're with First Home Mortgage. Is there something that you might have that other people might not have? Most of the questions that I get are how much money, like I had a buyer today, how much money do I have to put down? Well, I mean, that's a loaded question. Because I believe that now, aren't there 3% conventional loans now?
Yes, absolutely. Even just without the DC Open Doors or Mellon Mortgage Program, just doing standard loans, you can do up to a $467,000 price range with just 3% down. And as a lot of buyers, their concern, of course, is monthly payment. So there are products that give you a competitive rate and reduced mortgage insurance, even with just 3% down. So prior to Home Ready and Home Possible, which are not unique to First Home Mortgage, we're definitely pretty competitively priced with them. People would have to pay a much higher rate and really heavy mortgage insurance penalties if they were doing 3% down on a condo. Now, believe it or not, with those products, you can get a really great rate, even if your credit score is not that high. So they're not as sensitive to credit score as years prior. So those are really fantastic. And they're really the most popular products we're using these days. So I really like them a lot. All they require is a really simple online homebuyer course. It's free. It takes like half an hour. So very, very seamless. As far as qualifying for them, just really briefly, you need to be at 100% of the area median income as far as your gross yearly income is concerned. In DC, that's 110,300. However, two really awesome things. If, for example, it's a couple and one of them can qualify on their own, we can take the other off the loan application in order to make that happen. Another really important note is that in a lot of up and coming areas I'm sorry.
Creative.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm always looking at that. You always want to see what one borrower can qualify for on their own. A lot of times it's a matter of splitting things up. I've heard of people not doing that, and people can end up paying way more for their mortgage than need be, which is a shame. The other really interesting thing, Mark, about those products, Home Ready, Home Possible, is that in underserved census tracts, which are just areas that are still kind of up and coming, which in DC are oftentimes beautiful, really nice areas, you can take advantage of those products regardless of your income. So that is really, really interesting. I mean, there's beautiful condos in Columbia Heights, Petworth, for example, Trinidad, Brooklyn, where you can take advantage of these products regardless of your income. So that's tremendous.
That's good to know. If anyone has any questions, then now's a good time to ask any, and we'll put them up and see if David has an answer, or if we have to direct message you for a little bit more of a detailed response. Glad you came on with us today. It was funny. I was sitting here with one of my teammates, Charles Cornell is sitting back there, and Charles always has something funny to say. And I said, David, you need to take off all that stuff off the back of your chair. You have like a jacket and a scarf. And Charles said, do you remember that scene in Mrs. Doubtfire when the social worker came to the door and Mrs. Doubtfire is like running through the house trying to get it clean?
Do
you remember that movie?
I do, and unfortunately, that is my life. So, what can I say?
It's mine too. I have this catch-all chair that's where everything goes, all the dry cleaning goes when I walk in, and my husband loves that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I call my housekeeper Dora the Savior because I don't know what I would do without her. But maybe I need to start having her come every week, as you could see from us earlier. So. When you're working the way that we work, it's hard to keep up with putting away the clothes. Let's face it.
I agree. I love it. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you joining us today. Do you have a website?
I do. It's just my first and last name.com, David. And then my last name is T as in Tom, OAFF as in Frank. And people can apply on there. Of course, anybody can text or call me anytime. My cell is 610-348-3772. And, what I really like to do with a lot of my clients, Mark, is see if they'd like to meet in person or do a Skype call or whatnot. We're very non-pressuring, and I think that's one of the things that people like about us. I'm really glad to go through the entire process and give them information on what they can qualify for before doing a formal pre-approval. There's really no need to push people. I think that people enjoy working with us because we're totally willing to be an advocate before they sign on. And if they don't sign on, that's okay too.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining us today. David Toaff with First Home Mortgage. We put all of the legal information down in the comments, your license number, who you work for, how to get a hold of you, your email address. So we have that. I'm Mark Rutstein with dcrealestate.com over here at Compass, the Evan and Mark team. Thanks, David. Have a good day.
Great hanging, and have a good one. We'll talk soon.